It's where we live these days, I think so.
Yes, no, that's true. So how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm glad you said you were going to record it because I dressed up today.
You look nice. I did as well.
Good.
These days of Zoom are really something awful, I think, as far as like, bringing your A game. So I guess just to make the recording clear, you are Paula Talarico and you were our president from, was it 92 to 93?
Yes, 92 to 93. That's right.
Okay. And I have a list of set questions that we're asking all of our former presidents that we're able to get in touch with. And the first question is, how did you get involved with WLAM initially?
Initially, when I was a new lawyer, I was licensed in 1983. I was really, a little out of sorts in a new profession and really wanting to meet people. And so I started going to the Wayne County Women Lawyers meetings, which were in those days held mostly at the Caucus Club, which was pretty ritzy.
That sounds fancy.
It was fancy. And most of the people there weren't that welcoming, to be honest with you. It taught me a little bit about what it's like to be the new person to walk into a room and how important it is that we be welcoming in all the places that where we find ourselves. And but what's funny is I came to be friends with most of those people. So I would say that they're probably just shy. Two of the people really started to mentor me, Dawn Van Hoek and Kathy Levy. And both of them went on to become presidents of the of Women Lawyers Association, both Wayne County. I think Kathy was in Wayne County as well, but Wayne County and then the state. So they talked to me about being involved. They talked to me about I was president of Wayne County Women Lawyers in, I think it was 1989. And at that time I went up on the WLAM board and started to move through the leadership.
Okay. So what challenges did you face during your term as president?
The biggest challenge, I think, the structure at the time was that there was the president and then there were two vice presidents that were moving up, so that the first vice was in training essentially to become the president. And they're very helpful. They were very helpful with for the president in whatever needed to be done. My first vice president was a woman who was litigating a very, very big case in Ann Arbor. It was the DeBoer case of the.
Okay.
Remember that?
Is that the one with the adoption?
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep. So Sue Ellen Scarnecchia was the attorney for the DeBoers, and so she just was not able to come to really any of the meetings.
Okay.
So that was a challenge. I think the challenge also was that we were starting to see a shift in people's relationships to special purpose bar associations. And there was a little bit of it was hard. We were losing members and it was hard to make the case for why people would want to would want to join any special purpose bar, but women lawyers among them. And so and also at the same time, we were adding some regions. And so I made a trip to a lot of places in the state of Michigan to visit new, smaller regions and to reach out in that way. And so, that's probably those are the two biggest challenges, I would say.
Okay. And what do you know now that you wish you knew when you entered the leadership pipeline?
Oh, yeah. Well, to pay more attention. But really, the difficulty is that young attorneys move up into leadership. That's the way it has been in women lawyers. And you just, through years of practice, a few more years even, you just learn about the way of the world. And so now I also have to stand back as I'm saying that and say, maybe one of the ways I learned about the ways of the world was when I was in the leadership. And that I did gain a ton of confidence. I stood in front of large groups and made presentations, something that I wasn't really afraid of, but just honed those skills. I got to know people throughout the state of Michigan, still to this day, after all these years, still consider some of them my friends because I just stay in contact. And I mean, it was absolutely wonderful for my business because I only took referrals even then, and getting your name out there is, it was gold, really. It was really nice to have a way to connect personally, but also from a business perspective.
What goals did you have when you took office?
The goals were to shore it up as much as possible, to bring in the new people and make them feel welcome and give them a reason for staying, to create the reasons why people would, or to help, amplify the reasons why people would join us. We were in we were also in some flux in the practice and through women lawyers. There have been issues right along, such as should women lawyers endorse in judicial races. There was a time, and it was happening somewhere around the time that I was president, before and after, that it got a little bit scary for women lawyers to go out on a limb. They were brand new. They did not want to get on the wrong side. And so they really stopped. I mean, we used to do a lot. I used to run the canon endorsement for both Wayne and I was very involved at the state level. And we used to do a lot. I mean, we interviewed circuit court judges in the county for the region, obviously, and then at the state level, we did all the appellate courts, and that really fell away as people had to figure out what was their power, really. What was their power and how did they want to use it for the betterment of women in the profession. There were political issues such as choice, which became divisive, in which later on, after I was gone, were more divisive. And so those things were kind of roiling in the early 90s. We had, 90, I think it was 92. Yeah. It was 92 when Clarence Thomas was in the adult hearings. I mean, it was really, really gut-wrenching for women, at least the women that I know. And that I was in relationship with at the time, professional relationship with, that, we were just, without the benefit of a Me Too movement or a Believe Women or anything, we were just gobsmacked by what we saw and what we heard.
Well, that reminds me of, so I was doing a little research online, and you were quoted in a newspaper article about, I don't know if you remember, there was an attorney who had sexually harassed an intern.
Oh, I don't remember. No.
Okay, so I think the attorney's name may have been D. Richard Miller, and he was alleged to have harassed his high school intern at his law office, and the grievance commission was getting involved with this, and you were quoted in the article as being supportive of this being an issue of potentially affecting his license.
Oh.
I can send you the I'll send you the article.
Yeah, thank you. I'd appreciate it. I'll send it to my daughter, who's now 25 and probably thinks I didn't do anything.
You did. You were speaking up on behalf of people who are harassed by lawyers, I guess, which is always an important thing to do.
Well, Nicole, Dawn Van Hoek will probably talk a little bit about this, but they had done the gender bias task force in 1989, and it was shocking. If you ever get a chance to read it, it's shocking what was being done at large law firms to admin staff, to that was just the feeling that admin staff was there for the taking was just ridiculous. That's 1989 looking back, right? That's,
yeah,
I mean,
pretty
in all these,
yeah,
and all these years later, so 31 years later, we still have problems. So, but I'm glad I was hanging out with the people who identified the problems and who have been fighting ever since.
What was your greatest accomplishment during your term?
Well, one of the other things happening at that time was it happened pretty quickly. Bill Clinton was elected, and the bar leadership was tasked by the senators, which was Senator Levin at the time, to interview lots of people for federal judicial appointments. So these would be at the U.S. District Court. And I think my work on that was important because we picked some, we were instrumental in picking some very, very good judges who are on the bench, still. And I think my other great accomplishment was just getting out and driving the state and meeting people. The one I remember the most, because it was harrowing, was I went out to, I think they were called the Lakeshore District. So this would be way, way over.
So probably like St. Clair County.
No, other side of the.
Oh, the other side.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right
okay. So this is Western Michigan. So like the, what are they called? The Grand Haven.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know what they were called the Lakeshore
Okay.
region at that time. And so they were new and I drove over. They wanted to hear from me. So I drove over, got stuck in a horrendous snowstorm coming off of Lake Michigan. Luckily, a friend of mine lived in Benton Harbor, St. Joe in that area. And so I was able to, stay with him. But there were a couple times on the road that I thought, I was a goner. So not really, but you know what I mean?
No, but it's still scary.
Yeah, white knuckling it. But that was fun to go over. And Lynn Corrigan was one of the women who was over there. She's up in Petoskey now, but I haven't talked to her. I see her on some sites, but she, they were just really good people trying to carve out a place in a very male dominated area. So.
Do you have any favorite WLAM memories that you'd like to share?
I loved Wayne County used to have a softball game that they would have every year for a long time that would raise money, similar to the culinary challenge, only we moved around a lot more. And so we would have these softball games and it would be the lawyers versus the judges. And it got to be where the judges had to have like some ringers come in. So Sarah Smolinski from out in Grand Rapids, I think or Lansing, I can't remember where. She was like one heck of a pitcher. And we had a blast. And it was, it had the similar kind of feeling that the culinary challenge does where we, it was just us getting together, enjoying each other's company. Law was not the point. It was just having a lot of fun. So I enjoyed that. I was sworn in as president in May of 1992, and in June of 1992, the State Bar held its first ever meeting at the Grand Hotel. And they had made a deal with the people who own the Grand for the State Bar to come up there if they would change their employment policies. And so, at that time, like there were only Black people serving it's just racist, like so racist. Anyway, so they made a deal. They had a huge meeting up at the Grand, and I was engaged to be married. And I talked to the woman who was the head of it, Nancy Galloway, and I said, yeah, I'm going to get married up on Mackinac Island after the meeting. And she said, great. And she got me and my fiance a magnificent room, like a room that was on a curve and it overlooked the straits. And they had given the bar a super deal. So we paid like $200 a month for it, but she got us this room that was beautiful. And we got married right directly after the conference on the
That's
Monday.
Nice.
Yeah, that was fun.
Okay, so that would be a very happy memory. Okay.
Yep.
What advice do you have for future WLAM presidents?
Talk to one another, reach out to other places in the state that need us, where they are much more alone still after all these years. To know that women still have a difficult time in the profession, even though we make up, probably the numbers are 50-50, certainly coming out of law schools. Even in my year, I graduated in 1983. Our class was 45% women. So it wasn't like the numbers were there. It was really, we were talking a lot about retention. Like, how do you have a practice when you have children? And you are, by the way, the only one who can have children. Like, even if you're not in a heterosexual relationship, you know, one of you is going to have to, more than likely, unless you're adopting. And even if you adopt, somebody's got to care, you know, all these things that the society says that they value are not valued in the profession, in professions. I'm not saying it's as bad as it was. I definitely think it's a lot better, but we can't lose sight of it. We can't lose sight of, and the best things that ever happened to me as a woman lawyer was when I was, you know, I was in a court and I might not have even known the woman. I think of one time in particular, but it happened so many times where I didn't know the person, but they came over to help me. They came over to talk to me. And, you know, and I tried all through my life, my professional life, to be that person, because I knew what it was like to show up at a, you know, in a criminal court in Inkster and not know what the heck was going on, you know, process-wise. Like, law, you can know, you know, but
Right.
process-wise, like, who's the, you know, who's the attorney on the other side, and what are they like, and trading the information that I think makes it, it's what men have done always. They always have. They've always had clubs. They've always had ways that they can trade information and get everybody up to speed. And women need to do that for one another.
Where do you hope WLAM goes in the future?
Well, I'm like super impressed by what I see in WLAM. So it would be hard for me to, I mean, I just hope they don't lose sight of how important they are for women in the profession, and that a place to be. They seem to have a lot of fun, and that's important, because it's, you know, it's really important to have some joy, but also as resources for one another, as you know, people that we can refer cases back and forth, or just talk to about, you know, call up somebody and say, hey, you know, I've got this case, can we talk about it? You know, I'm on the Woman Lawyers Foundation now, so I'm the treasurer. I have been the treasurer since 2008. And Dawn Van Hulk was the president for life, and then she decided to retire. And so, you know, the way that we got Kristen is that she came to my office to talk about, quite frankly, something that was making me mad about what was happening at Women Lawyers with because it was the foundation vis-a-vis the Women Lawyers Association. And we got along so well, and she's such a problem solver, and she's just an amazing lawyer and human being, that I almost immediately went back to Dawn and said, look, I know you want an exit strategy. I think Kristen's the person. And so let's see how it goes. Let's see, because she had her own leadership stuff to do. And that's what happened. And she's really a remarkable leader. And so I think where you guys should go is where you're going. Like, you really are, it's gratifying to see. And with my daughter's going to go to law school next year. And so, you know, I feel so hopeful for her. I really do. So
that's great. You've touched on this a bit, so I don't know if you have anything to add, but how has WLAM affected your life and career?
oh, it would, for one thing, I would not be as happy in my career if I didn't have the friends that I developed in women lawyers. For another thing, I don't think I would have been as successful. I might have been, I don't know. You know, it's hard to say how that is. If you're looking for clients, you might find them, but it just became, you know, I got so many opportunities because I was president of Women Lawyers.
And this is the last standard question. Did you continue involvement with WLAM after your term? If no, why not?
I have paid dues every single year. I belong to 3 regions, so I pay dues to those regions, but I pick Wayne as my main region because I was the president there, and I'm a sustaining member. So I give the highest amount I can, and so the answer very simply for me is yes, and I would never have it any other way.
Great. And so in addition to the Women Lawyers Association and the foundation, did you ever get involved with like the state bar?
I did not. It seemed I had a kid in 1995, and so, you know, if that was going to happen, it just kind of got cut short. I need to really kind of pick my places where I was going to be volunteering. So I didn't get involved in the state bar. I was for a while involved in the Detroit Metropolitan Bar. I did some committee work for them. I never, for some reason, been out here in Oakland County for a long time. I've just never gotten involved in Oakland County politics or the bar or Macomb. So.
And are there any other charitable organizations that you have worked with over the years?
The point place for me is my church, which is a Unitarian church. So there's lots of opportunities for service but I start there usually. I don't, I'm trying to think if I have volunteered at schools. This is outside of the church stuff, which would be more like social justice. But outside of that, I volunteered. Not lectured. I've gone in and taught at schools and talked to classes at both the high school and a college level about being a lawyer. And I have done, Oakland County used to have this thing called they called it a probate road show. Basically, I did some of that. I really haven't given as much time to anything else other than women lawyers and the stuff that I do through my church.
And you said that does your daughter know where she's going to go to school yet?
Not quite. She's
okay.
She lives in DC right now, and
okay.
Yeah, so she's got some options.
Okay. Well, if she decides to go in state, let us know, and we'll see if we have like a law student liaison or someone that we can introduce her to. And you know, we can introduce her to those people anyways if she's just looking for like study tips or anything like that.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much.
Is there anything else that you would like to talk about?
I'll just leave this. You know, we thought 30 years ago that, is it 30? It's really 40 years ago. So 1989 was 40 years ago, right? So we thought 40 years ago that, I don't know the numbers, but anyway, in 1989, we really thought that things would change faster, more quickly. But as with anything, it's usually just hard work and plodding along and making change and helping, turning around and grabbing the hand of the person behind you and just keep going. And so, you know, we just need to keep going. We just need to keep going. We need to be each other's friends, even in adversarial situations. And we need to understand that each one of us walks a different walk, but that's a good thing. That's an excellent thing for the profession. It is not, we don't all have to be the same to bring value. So that's it.
Okay, well, thank you so much for talking with me today. And like I said, have your daughter contact us if she needs anything, and I will email you that article.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I know at some point we'll see one another in person.
Yes, we will. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.